What's up, everybody? My name is Benny, and we are now in the Chop Shop. And today I have the honor and privilege of having my good buddy Mico joining us today. Mico, you're Santa Rosa born and raised, our
Correct.
hometown where we're from. And I just kind of wanted to bring you on many different reasons. Number one, I think when I first started this podcast, I thought, this is the type of person I want to bring on. Somebody who has a story to share, kind of some crazy experiences, someone who has a lot to share, a lot to for others to learn from. And, you're one of the first ones I thought it would be great to have him on. But I also wanted to bring you on just because of the stuff that's been happening in our community here in our hometown. I know it's not just a Santa Rosa problem. It happens in other cities up and down California for sure. But before we get into any of that, I just, first of all, dude, thank you so much for opening your home and letting me come in here and do this. But man, like, share with me, like, what was it like growing up? What was your family at home? What was that situation like? Like, just share with us, like, what that experience was like.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Santa Rosa. I grew up in like my earliest memories are from South Park.
Yeah.
So grew up there. I had a traditional like Mexican grandmother.
Yeah.
My mom's, like my grandma, but like my oldest aunts and uncles were all born in Mexico.
Okay.
But then, like, my mom and my Uncle Billy, my mom's younger brother, they were born here.
Okay.
So, like, I kind of grew up with, like, proud to be Mexican.
Yeah.
But also with, like, these, like, Chicano roots.
Yeah.
So, like, knowing that I was different from, like, actual Mexicans that were born in Mexico.
Yeah.
So, like, even though I had, like, aunts and, that danced to cumbia
Right.
or whatnot, I knew I was different from them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, I knew I wasn't like other kids.
Right. Right.
So like I had this, like this identity thing,
Yeah.
My dad was a homeboy from the neighborhood. And then like my uncles, his brothers, they were, they were all homeboys.
Yeah.
And then like my uncles and like my older cousins from like my mom's side, they were homeboys and they were all from the same neighborhood.
Okay.
So the neighborhood I grew up being a part of, or my identity and all
Yeah.
that from an early age was wrapped up in that stuff.
Gotcha.
So like the men, that I looked up to,
Yeah.
like the strong male figures,
Yeah.
as a young boy, like where you should be maybe looking up to firemen or like cops
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Dude, I looked up to like gang members,
Gotcha.
Like there was like the Operation Black Widow that went on back in the day. It was like
Yeah.
this you can Google that and kind of read about that if you really wanted to. But like there's like cousins, like
Yeah.
godfathers, just like heck of people that, were basically all tied in to like our family.
Wow.
That were all wrapped up in that. And that was like an investigation that spanned throughout Northern California.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I basically grew up like that. I didn't really fit in like the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was just kind of like, yeah, like as I got older, I didn't really see myself being successful in like kind of like the society as we know it.
What would you say that was? That like other people telling you that, or was it just like an assumption, like this type of person just doesn't succeed in society? Like what makes you say that?
So like one of my earliest one of the first things that really stood out to me where I started to really believe that was I was walking in the hallway, and this was at Lawrence Cook Middle School.
Okay.
And there was a PE teacher, but he was also the icebox he was also like, if you got sent to the icebox,
Okay.
he was like that teacher.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. I think it was something like that. Anyways, so like I'm walking down the hallway and he's walking down the hallway and
Yeah.
he like steps in front of me and just like blocks my path to travel.
Yeah.
So like I tried to like get around him and he blocks me again. And I'm like wearing this shirt it's like a red soccer like jersey type shirt.
Yeah.
And it has like these stripes that go down this way.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You see these stripes on your shirt?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Those stripes represent bars. That's what you're gonna be behind when you grow up."
Jeez.
Right. And
In middle school?
middle, 7th grade.
My goodness.
Yeah. So like, and then like as it, from then on, as I got older, I just would always ask myself like, why am I even here? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not learning anything.
Right.
It was just, I felt out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. What was there a lot of kids who were kind of in the same lifestyle as you were, or were you just really that different where, you were like the only one that had that same kind of upbringing, and maybe liked the same things that you liked? Like, what was the school that much different, or?
No, there was other kids that were like me, definitely.
Okay.
And it was like, we knew, like we clicked up.
Yeah, who you guys were.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Man, that's crazy to me that even from 7th grade you could remember somebody telling you something like that. And that makes sense why you would like then go on and be like, okay, well, yeah, I'm probably not going to be successful. Even if I thought, at that young age, it's at a point where it's like, even if you thought you could be successful, the fact that somebody else is telling you won't be is enough for you to believe, yeah, I probably won't be.
Right.
Dang, man. So you're going through middle school. Mom and dad, are they together? Are they present? I mean, what's the family like at home? Or are you just already living with aunts and grandma, or?
So, like from all my childhood years and until I was about, I want to say maybe 12 years old.
Okay.
My mom was a junkie.
Okay.
And so she was a slam methamphetamines, and I threw a syringe. And so my dad, he was basically in prison my whole young life.
Okay.
But then there was my stepdad. But even he was even a homeboy, and my dad was a homeboy. Everybody was homeboys. But
Yeah.
So, but my mom had turned her life around at a point, but I feel like, it was like at that point, it's too late, like at a certain point when a child experiences so much
Yeah.
at such a young age, I think, you can't really just change,
Yeah.
The streets really had a hold on me at that point,
Yeah.
I would say. So, I do remember her really, like, as I began to really just take off and like run the streets and like really get involved into things at like a higher level. I do remember her like looking for me, driving around, and then like I would come out and talk to her and she'd be like just broken,
Yeah.
And I started going in and out of juvenile hall. There was like just started getting involved into crimes, violence, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was just like it got to a point once I started going to juvenile hall where I wouldn't be out on the streets for like more than a couple months at a time. It pretty much went all the way like that until like 2009. So I'm 39 now. I'm not exactly sure how old I was back then, but that's the last time I paroled from prison. And so, it just, everything just slowly got worse, I started using, I hated drug addicts because, my mom was a drug addict.
Yeah.
So like I promised myself, you'll never be a drug addict. I'll never do that. I'm a gang member, I'm running the streets. I'll do this. Like I have some self-respect,
Right.
But, you're around like that life for so long and just like selling drugs, and then you're just at these houses that drug addicts are coming in and out. You're selling drugs. It's like eventually you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you're gonna get a haircut.
Right. Dang.
Yeah, so needless to say, like I ended up on drugs. I ended up just some people when they use methamphetamines, they either become like more psychotic or like they become hecka scared. Like it has one effect on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it just made me this like monster, dude. I was like
Yeah.
a crime spree, you
Yeah.
know. And so yeah, like I think getting locked up was probably, you know, going to prison for an extended period of time was probably saved my life.
Yeah.
Not to get like yeah, I mean, not sure how to really. I mean, been to San Quentin twice, Jamestown, High Desert, Soledad. You know, these are some of the prisons I've been to.
Yeah.
I think I just I really realized at a point in time that I just didn't want to continue to like live that life anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I think it just went on for so long to where I realized like, whoa, this isn't what I thought it was.
Right. Right.
You know, as a young man, I think a lot of the misconceptions that, you know, us young men have, that when we're indoctrinated to believe some of these things we believe, it's like almost like this, like a romantic, like heroic story.
Yeah.
And like we're like the hero in the story.
Right.
And we're indoctrinated to believe like, you know, the police are bad. You know, we're these honorable, fighting for a cause. You know,
Yeah.
and the system's all geared to like just, you know, come after us.
Yeah.
And we're just, you know. And so, but you begin to realize like as things go on, it's like, wait a minute, all these homeboys are supposed to have my back. You know, that
Yeah.
we're supposed to go all the way for each other. You know, like if you got an issue, I got an issue. Like
Yeah.
we're back to back. You know, we go there together. We're leaving together.
Right.
Like, and you start to realize that you get involved in prison and these politics and stuff like that, where it's just like dog eat dog.
Yeah.
And you know, there's homeboys like whacking homeboys. I mean, it's politics that lead to that. But like,
Yeah.
where you'll see like a homie that don't even see it coming, he'll be playing like a chess game on the yard with his, you know, with the homeboys,
Yeah.
and then start just getting took off on, like
Yeah.
just multiple pieces, multiple attackers on them, and they just stay on them, like
Right.
they'll go against the guns and everything. And it's weird, bro. Like what the human body and mind will adapt to, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember when I got to High Desert, I was scared. You know, I had already been to these other prisons and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
like I already knew High Desert was cracking. And bro, it didn't take me long to like really get used to it. You know, there's like a helicopter landing pad there with a pilot like ready to go, because like when they move on you there, you're not just like getting like you're not getting a concussion. Like they're staying on you with pieces, and that helicopter's there to fly you, to medevac you out to like the nearest trauma facility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like if something happens and you're like going to be the victim, you're getting airlifted, bro.
Yeah,
So that was
yeah.
like a coined term there. Like, oh, what happened to so and so? He got lifted. That meant he got
Yeah.
airlifted to
Right.
that trauma facility. And so I paroled from there, and I think I just felt like I dodged a bullet. Like I somehow like I survived like something. It was crazy. Like I think about that as like a book I read.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm never going back, bro. I get in trouble, I go back. And I think I had my daughters at the time. Like I got served, you know, custody papers and all this stuff, and there was just like everything that was going on at that time. Like I felt super like just defeated. Like my spirit was just broken.
Yeah.
And there was a lot going on, and I just remember being in San Quentin. I was in the I was on the third tier Donner section, and yeah, dude, I just cried out to God, bro. I remember asking myself, like, pointedly, like having a conversation with myself, and I was like, why are you still doing this? Like, because at this point, like, I knew better. I no longer like was believed in what I was doing, like I did when I was younger. But it was just like a lifestyle. Like I felt like I was just the only way I knew how to live.
Yeah.
And so I asked myself, I said, why are you living like this? And then I got honest with myself, and I was like, because you're scared. You're scared.
Mm-hmm.
You're scared of the repercussions if you walk away from that life. Like what the life after that life will look like.
Yeah.
And I like sat on that for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what? I ain't never like considered myself a punk, and I'm not gonna let like other people's actions, decisions, or thoughts like dictate the decisions I make for my life, like
Yeah.
from here on out going forward. And so, yeah, I just did what I had to do, bro. Like I separated myself from like the homeboys, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I couldn't go far, you know, because like we're all locked up together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it's like the next day we're like looking at each other, but there's like a cage there in between us.
Yeah.
And the homeboys got at me and they're like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing? What's happening? What happened?" And so these were like the homeboys that were in Carson section, like validated homeboys,
Yeah.
like that are validated gang members through the CDC validation system. And they were like, "What's happening?" And I was just like, "Bro, I'm done." And they were like, "What?" You know,
Yeah.
like, cause like the way like we've already, you know, who's willing to go down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
and you know who's not.
Right.
So like there's like a certain kind of a brotherhood between like there's convicts and there's inmates.
Yeah.
And you know a guy who just got in trouble and he just wants to go home, that's an inmate.
Yeah.
But there's like the guys who are willing to like catch more time, and we're doing what we can do to like secure the yard. We'll kick
Right.
the yard off with any other race, any other group at any time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are convicts. And like I was considered, you know, I was in, you know, so when I said what I said, they were like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." And then there was like the big homie came and he was like, "Hey, bro, like whatever's going on in your life right now, it's not, you know, like it may seem like a big deal, but you know, I see that your spirit is definitely broken, bro, but like, you know what? You ain't done nothing yet. So, you know, I think you should just chill out, you know, just sit down." He's like, "You know, you're serving a violation. You know, you probably just want to go home and take care of your business." And he's like, "That's fine. Go ahead and do that." You know, because it was like the first time I was willing to do whatever I had to do to further the agenda
Right.
of
Yeah.
the big homies.
Yeah,
You
for
know what
sure.
I mean? But then at this time, I just want to go home and like try to like see my kid. It's like before everything was like dead inside me.
Yeah.
But at this time, it wasn't. You know, like there was life stirring in me, and I just wanted to go home and try to make things right, and the homies knew that, and so they were like, "Bro, just come back. You know, just take a back seat, and go home and handle your business, bro. It's all good." And then I knew that I could. There's always the chance, like, where they're just saying that and they're just gonna book you when you get over there. But no, I didn't feel like that's what that was. But I just looked at them, bro, and I said, "I can't, bro. I no longer believe in this anymore."
Yeah.
And when I said I no longer believe in this anymore, they all just hung their head and just shook their heads and just walked away from me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was literally like somebody died, bro. I think I was slept for like 3 solid days after that, and every time I woke up, it was like a bad dream. I was like broken, like I could hear myself crying in my sleep. It was like somebody really important to me died.
Yeah.
But it was me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have this moment, you're locked up, right? You cry out to God. And we were just talking before the podcast that you had family members who were involved in church, and they always brought up going to church, right? So,
Right.
So this was because from the sound of it, you didn't go to church as a little kid, or did you?
I did off and on.
Okay.
So like I had aunts and stuff, you know, that would, you know, there was times there was a church next to our house in South Park.
Okay.
Where they would no, dude, there's a crazy story, bro.
Tell
You want to hear it?
Yeah, tell it.
Okay, so when my mom was like at the worst peak of her drug addiction.
Yeah.
We lived in this duplex next to a Christian Life Center in South Park.
Okay. Yeah.
And right next door. And they used to have a bus system that would drive around and pick kids up and bring them to church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I used to do is I used to go over there and climb on top of the buses and jump from bus to bus and like just tear crap up,
Yeah.
you know? And one day I get caught. And like my buddies that I'm with, they dip out and they shake me, you know, I get caught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm in trouble. You know, this guy's got me, you know, by my shirt. And he's like, hey, come here, I'm going to show you something. And so he takes me in this room, bro, and there's these Royal Rangers in there, bro, full uniform. They're building the little go-karts and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want to build a go-kart or a little cart?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So they hooked me up, you know, so
Wow.
I built the cart. So then they go, you know, come back at this day or whatever, you know, so I became a Royal Ranger. They gave me an outfit,
Wow.
taught me how to tie knots and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then when it was time to go to, when they had their camp,
Yeah.
he said, hey, have your mom sign this permission slip and you can come camping with us and just tell her to give you a change of clothes and a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So I go, my mom signs it. Bro, no, I love my mom and I'm not bagging her on her anymore, but she definitely, God did a, you know, work in her life.
Yeah.
But bro, she just signed it. She didn't even go check to talk to anybody. Like it was just like, yeah, bounce. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, bro, I went to the camp out there. And the first night after dinner, we had like chapel.
Yeah.
And they did like an altar call. Well, I went to the altar call. Bro, the Spirit of God fell on me so heavy. I was so broken, bro.
Yeah.
That when I remember when I looked up and looked around, the chapel was empty. The band was gone. Everybody was gone. There was just one counselor there waiting for me.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that that's how long I was on the floor of the altar as
Wow.
I was just a child, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like God marked me at that point, like you know, that I was His.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think you always had moments where you sensed that as growing up, even with all the things you were doing, you always had that feeling of like, hey, I'm involved in this, but I feel like I'm different because I feel like God, you know, has marked me.
Right. I've always been really conflicted.
Got it.
Yeah, so I've been really I've always been really broken in the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also had like a lot of anger and undealt with stuff in me, and I had a lot of pain, you know. And there's people that experience pain and they want to stop other people from feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was angry, bro, and I wanted other people to feel what I felt.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I don't. Yeah, so I was always really conflicted, and I remember different people that would really get to know me, or females or whatnot, over throughout my life. They're like, "Dude, you're conflicted."
Wow.
It was always something that people have always pointed out about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel like that was the conflict was the experience you had with God, but then also being drawn to being a part of a family and being involved in these like criminal activities as well.
Right. Just having that identity of a gang member.
Gotcha.
Dude, all my value and everything that in myself was tied up into that. That's who I was.
Yeah.
So when that went away, it took me a minute to figure out, you know, how to really be a man on my own.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
So, I've struggled with that for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so take me back to the story before, where you're in your cell. You just informed, right? The big homie's like, I don't believe in this anymore. I'm done.
I'm out.
They shake their heads. They walk away. Right. You sleep for 3 days. You are literally experiencing the funeral of your old self. Right. Walk me through what's next. What happens in your life? Are the homies not leaving you alone? Are you afraid of what's going to happen next, or is it just like this peaceful transition into whatever's coming next? I mean, what does that look like?
It was the devil was mad, bro. So I basically been a gang member for so long that just because like I decided that I want to change
Yeah.
and I want to be different,
Yeah.
it really my behaviors and my
Right.
habits and stuff like that were still that of a gang member. So
Yeah.
I was still responding like a gang member. I was still thinking like a gang member. I was
Right.
still like playing chess and stuff like that, and,
Yeah.
and, and somehow just always turning something into it was like a game. And really what I mean by that was, so I'll back it up. So after that, I served the rest of my time out there. I won't get too much into like all that the little nitty gritty parts of everything
Yeah.
that went down. But anyways, I come home. And yeah, like the homeboys from my neighborhood, they were not happy.
Yeah.
Like there was dudes that really had done stuff with me and knew who I was and stuff. It was all good. But like there was like the youngsters who thought they were gonna make a name or like
Yeah.
come and get some stripes or something like that. And I was just like, oh bro, you
Yeah.
got it twisted,
Yeah.
like that's not happening. And I got stuck into like this little back and forth thing.
Right.
And it was like, dude, I'm still gangbanging.
Right.
I'm still gangbanging, except I don't want to, but somehow I got drawn back into this.
Yeah.
And it just hurt me. It was like somebody was sticking a knife in my stomach and twisting it every time somebody said Mico was a punk or
Yeah.
Mico was this or whatever.
Yeah.
It just like made me want to come out,
Right.
and pop up, or pull up or whatever they say now. And so eventually I realized it's like, I need to stop responding to that and,
Yeah.
eat crow and, humble myself and really, because I was noticing was like there was a lot of posturing, but there was like when you would run into people just like a one-on-one at the grocery store, there was never a conflict,
Right.
so it was like, well, I'm putting myself into these positions, so I just quit drinking alcohol. I quit going to like anywhere where any stuff like that would happen, and then started focusing on my daughters going to church
Right.
and stuff like that, and my life just slowly started to evolve and change into like what it is today.
Right. Right. So you start making these changes little by little. Things start changing, and like you said, you get involved in church.
Yeah.
Right. And so, tell me about that transition into church from this lifestyle. Like the church you go to, the people that were there, did they just embrace you? Or some a little not sure about you? Like, what was that transition into church like, coming from a gang lifestyle?
So I mean, I always felt comfortable in church because the presence
Yeah,
of God.
yeah.
I love being in the presence of God, and I love being in worship
Right.
and stuff like that. So that was always easy. I've always felt like from back then, like where do I fit in all of this? And I just I as I got more mature as a Christian, I just realized that you get in where you fit in, bro. Like you need to like whatever your passion is, you kind of just got to get it, if you got a heart for young people, then be the hands and feet, do something about it.
Right.
Nobody's gonna like roll out the red carpet for you and be like, here, here's your own
Right.
youth group, lead the youth group.
Yeah.
Everybody has like a vision or aspirations to do
Right,
stuff,
for sure.
So you just kind of got to get in for where you feel like you're doing your podcast,
Yeah.
and so I kind of realized that I got involved in like different ways I can fulfill those
Right.
desires,
For sure.
and things kind of like snowballed and grown in this direction, grown in that direction. And I'm just kind of always constantly, I sometimes I'm surprised, like on some of this, where things can lead sometimes.
Yeah.
When we just like, oh, let's an idea and like how it grows and then it blows up into something. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm a homeboy. Like there's so even though I walked away from that life and like say like an active gang member who's like when I say that word, I mean somebody who's like constantly pushing for like that agenda of like the powers that be in that area.
For sure.
That's what I mean by that. They might not consider me a homeboy,
Mm-hmm.
their homeboy or whatnot, but like I'm a homeboy, bro. And when I see homeboys, you know, there's a burden on my heart for those people. So, where I work now, the Lord has positioned me to be able to, I'm one of the top foremen over there, so I'm able to like bring people in and stuff. And so I do that. I'm also a part of the Sonoma County Lowrider Council. That's a group of lowrider clubs that basically the whole agenda behind that, or the idea behind that, was like really to combat the narrative of the negative stereotypes about lowriding.
Right, yeah.
And to show them that, people who own lowriders are just regular people, with families and stuff like that. And so so there was like that avenue where I kind of get that. But I've always kind of struggled with like, I don't really look like some of these other Christians, or I don't really dress like some of these other Christians. And that was always kind of something. But then I realized, like, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do what I do, But always questions like, well, I don't need to advertise. Like, I'm not walking down the street with a bullhorn, like, But, like, so I've always struggled with that. But there was a situation that happened where it was like a guy a homeboy who I had got a job. He was a young man, and he was doing really good at the time, but he had made a series of really bad decisions, and
mm-hmm.
he was hurting, and the walls were closing in on him, and his life was kind of feeling it.
Yeah.
And he had called me up, and he was really broken, and he was broken, bro. And the fact, after the phone call, the fact that he felt like he can call me, or like when he was in that situation, that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna call Mico.
Yeah.
Bro, like the Lord gave me peace, with like I'm doing fine,
Right. Yeah.
I don't, so I'm me,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that we overlook, because I mean, it's funny that we grew up in similar areas, but my story is completely different than yours, but I was a kid that was forced in the church, but I stayed. I didn't, of course I had ideas and I want to do this and that, but I always was at church, and I made bad decisions too, and I felt like I always made it a priority to be at church. But all the things you say about, like, as far as how sometimes we in church like to have like the red carpet kind of rolled out before us, and like, hey, we're going to have you be the leader of this now. Like, yeah, like I struggle with that a lot, man. Like, especially growing up as the pastor's grandson.
Right.
Yeah. I should I'll do that. I'm the leader of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what you just said is like the major key, man, is like each of us are called to reach somebody.
Yeah.
Because the pastor can't reach everybody, or no one person can reach everybody, and right. I think that we all have experiences that other people can relate with. You can relate with some other group that I can't, and vice versa, right? And so I think that is like something important that, us as believers, we have to remember is like, hey, like there's somebody out there that you need to go get,
right.
and only you can get,
right.
And God is calling you to go get that person. So look, man, you have your life turned around, right? And you have a beautiful family. You guys are making a difference in the community. You and your wife, right? You guys are doing amazing things in the community. And what I love about what you guys do, it isn't so. and this may sound like a bad thing, but it's not. It's not so tied up within the walls of the church. It's about the community that surrounds the church. That's what I love about what you guys do. So you're involved in the Sonoma County Lowrider Committee, right? And I know you're also involved in some other conversations. And I brought this up in a couple of weeks ago on one of the episodes. We've had a couple of incidents here locally, and it's not the first time, of a couple shootings, gang-related shootings that involved literally like 14, 15-year-old kids.
Correct.
And I don't know, man. Like I read this stuff in the paper. Number one, and I know you as well, we're fathers. So the first that we think about is our kids,
Correct.
you know. And then the second is just about the well-being of our community and what we're doing. What are we doing? You know, what are we really helping our youth really understand that they can make good of themselves, you know, better their lives, you know, or are we, you know, as you've experienced in your life, allowing the wrong voices get into their heads and tell them that they won't be successful, right? Mm-hmm. Like, just share a little bit about kind of what's happened and what your kind of response and maybe some of the conversations that you've been involved in the last couple of weeks, because I know you have, not only in like local committees and stuff, but also just the people, the circles that you're involved with. Like, what do you feel is the big challenge that faces us as a community, and what are some things that you see could be helpful to solve some of these issues?
Yeah, so the first of all, the gang problem is like still very much alive. It looks different and it behaves different. The young people, they dress different. It's just it's a whole different. It's the culture's a little bit different, but it's still very much you know, the same thing it was, or tied to the same thing it was when I was doing it. I think what we're seeing today is they call it drill rappers. So and that's normally associated with like the Chicago drill rap scene, and like it's kind of spread off of there, and like we see the murder rate out there. Like those rappers are just murdering each other left and right. So we've seen that come to California, and the Mexican Americans or the young Chicanos have kind of embraced that. I don't want to throw any like rapper names out there now, but like there's norteño, sureño rappers that have like embraced that, and they like are kind of doing that, and it's strange because it's like these young people, these, you know, they're just so quick to pick up a gun and pull the trigger. Like there's no pulling up, there's no squabble, you know, getting down or any of that. And so that's the first thing. Now there's like the community response, you know, like there's law enforcement, right? There's the law enforcement approach, and then there's like the preventative approach. There's you know, to keep them from, there's reentry, you know, like after, like myself, when I came home, when I was done, you know, like what resources are we gonna have for those people? And then there's there's all these different like steps to it that we need to think about. So after the series of shootings, the city of Santa Rosa was, you know, okay, you know, we had a meeting, and then, you know, the questions come up like, hey, what are we going to do about it? What are some ideas? Like, what are some programs we can do? Like how Measure O, they're not calling it Measure O anymore, but Measure O, we all voted for Measure O, and that was the Violence Prevention Partnership had funding for like 5 years. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on that. But that is funding, and so that's where a lot of good stuff came from, the partnership, the money that went to that. So we voted for that to continue that. And so I think what the city was thinking was like, okay, maybe we'll bring back Gang Task Force. Well, then there was the idea, is that money going to come from Measure O?
Right.
And so there's that, and we do need a law enforcement, approach to this, obviously, but I think we need to really consider other things. We do not want to go back to like those days, because it was just things. It was a different time. We just don't want that. So we just really wanted to see like how the community was going to be involved with with all of this, like basically who these officers are going to be. Are they going to be from the community? Are they going to they're going to represent are they going to look like the community they serve? Are they going to be from the area? Because it's kind of scary when you have a brown community being policed by maybe a white male that's not, like we're in Roseland, that maybe grew up in Marin.
Right.
So when sometimes there can be a disconnect between when he looks at our young people. When he's on driving down the street and he's on the beat, when he looks at our young 14-year-old kids, he might not feel the same way as when he's looking at the kids from his community.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's a concern. So those are some of the questions we were asking, but then it was like a perfect storm, because the city was we have Rosendo Sanchez, the Sanchez boxing gym. There's like a lot of red tape going on. Like his building had been there before the annexation of Roseland, and so then they were like kind of coming after him for like they wanted him to pull permits. They wanted him to like get some architectural drawings, and then at that point they were probably going to make him add a sprinkler system. And then we're hood over here, so he has like porta potties, bro.
Yeah.
And so then they would have made him add bathrooms, and it was just like this whole thing. And it was like right as they were really dropping the hammer on him right as these shootings were happening, and this conversation was going to take place. And it was like, well, whoa. That gym serves our young people in this community, these gang impacted children. So, like, what are we doing here? Can we talk about this? And so I kind of got really upset about that, and I made some noise. I try to do it as respectful as possible. Like my aim was never to like upset or like target anybody, but at the end of the day, like if you're an elected official and you've been elected to serve our community, then then you kind of signed up for it, and
sure.
Not the disrespect, but the call out, and that's what that post was about. And it kind of did catch a lot of traction.
Yeah, here locally it did, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what you did was done with the utmost respect, but I think the passion that you had, for sure, you got emotional.
I did.
And I think that sometimes we need that. We need local people from the community to speak up, but also show that it means something. That it's more. We're not just arguing just about a building. It's about what the purpose of the building, what it's being used for. And so, and when I saw that video, man, I was like, this is what we need. So, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of conversation happening on how we can prevent it, or try to. Some things we can do, like the boxing gym that really does serve the community. The young people are here in that area, gives them something to do, other than get into trouble.
Right.
Which I agree with. I think it's so important. Do you think that some of the issues that we see, and again, I don't want to make it sound like this is, 2 incidents happened recently. Those came out in the news because they were a big deal. There's probably dozens, if not more, of other incidents that happen that don't get picked up or written about. Maybe because they're not, somebody dying, but maybe some other types of activities happening. Do you think that stuff can only be solved by, like the boxing gym, or by something similar, like, providing these other things that they can do? after school, or do you think that there's some other issue or some other solution to the problem, if you will? For me, I'll speak from what I think and feel is that, again, being from as someone that grew up in Santa Rosa as well, I always felt like sometimes churches kind of take a backseat role to stuff that happens, and they wait or don't do anything at all, because a lot of our churches in Santa Rosa are really in the heart of these communities, right? And obviously not every church can really, in the same way that we talk about how a police officer may not relate to, from down the road, won't relate to the kids here in the community. A church that is in another part of the community may not relate with kids in this community, but I do feel like sometimes churches try not to get too mixed up for one reason or another, right? Whether they feel it's too dangerous or they feel it's too messy. I do think that churches sometimes avoid it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a couple questions there, and I'll hit them both. So like the first one was like, how can we what different angles can we be addressing this issue from? Bro, there's so many, because like every child is different. Like I was going into the juvenile halls, into like probation camp, on my free time for a while. I think I went like a couple times a year for like a few years, and I would talk about my experience, kind of how I did here, but I would get a little more gritty,
right?
Just so these young men who were, with face tattoos, neck tattoos, and stuff like that, were obviously on their way. I wanted them to. I didn't think that anything I said was gonna like transform them right there on the spot, but I wanted them to just hear everything I had to say. So when they went, they're going eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And they're, as they start to see stuff, they're gonna be like, oh, he said that, it was gonna be like that, or like this, or like that. So like there's that. Then there's gyms like Rosendo's gym, or like there's football, or there's basketball, these like the coaches and stuff like that. Like, should we be investing more into these programs to have more of a quality coaches, or coaches that are more committed and stuff like that, into the neighborhoods. LCL developed an amazing rugby team.
Right.
And in the beginning of the building of the rugby team, they were all kids from our neighborhood, or not from our neighborhood, from our community.
Yeah.
But that rugby team has become successful now, and now it's not about the kids from the community. It's about like, okay, there's kids from all over now,
right,
that are a part of that team. And so like it's not our rugby team anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's that approach, and then there's the church. Dude, absolutely. I mean, not just the church. There's officers, individual officers, if they're going to take their job, how they're going to approach their job.
Right.
Because their officers can make an impact, you know what I mean, on people, on the way they interact with them. They could definitely make an impact. Teachers, just anybody in the community that serves the community, any capacity, could make an impact on these young people.
Right.
And then we can, then the church. I think sometimes, I think we're scared as parents, to like really, maybe our church is already like a certain way, and our young people are like, we feel safe with what's there.
Yeah.
But, to like reach out and like start bringing more young people, or to really kind of push it out there like that, so we can get these impacted children, yeah, I mean, I think we could definitely do more as a church community.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, and it isn't just, the gang problem, right? I mean, because there's a lot of young people who just kind of out living for whatever purpose they think they have that's important, that's obviously not pointing towards God, but towards something else. And so the gang issue is just one of many issues, right? And obviously, you and I know it's a sin issue, right? It's a pleasing of the flesh issue, right? But again, because I have you here and you have the experience. I mean, this is what you lived through for many years of your life, and it's something that still is going on today in the same streets that you were running around in. Tell me about like maybe some of the interactions you've had with other maybe younger guys who are maybe still involved, where maybe you've had an opportunity to just sit down and be like, man, I did what you did and it's not worth it. Like what have those interactions been like? Do you sometimes feel that you make a difference in those? I know you shared about that one guy, right, that you brought in and you felt like he called you because he was in trouble and he just thought of you and you're like, hey, yeah, I'm doing something. But are there any other instances like that have happened?
Yeah, so like my first time going into juvenile hall,
Yeah.
I was so nervous. And it's like, bro, I've been on, yards with murderers, bro.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just ready to jump. We're going out there outnumbered, and I've been in some hostile situations, you know. And my nerves never bothered me then.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know, but like my nerves were just jumping, bro. And I think what I was scared of was that, okay, I'm gonna come in here and my intentions are good. I want to help these kids, and I'm gonna talk to them from a former gang member's perspective.
Right.
Well, at that point, they're gonna consider me a dropout, and that's not, they don't want to associate or anything with that. So if I'm telling them I'm a former gang member and I'm in there talking to them, they're automatically gonna put me in that box.
Yeah.
So and that's what I was scared of, because I knew how I thought at that time. But no, dude, I just went in there, started like sharing my story, and I always, like, when I'm talking to young men like that, like one of the things I always say is like, yeah, so I've been to San Quentin twice, Jamestown, Soledad, and High Desert, and you know what I mean. And as soon as I say that, they're like, they're all their ears perk up. So when I seen that, I had their attention and they were like listening and asking questions. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So like I got that response. I've also been like where we're out cruising in the cars, and like there's red cars, there's blue cars, there's different cars. People just you're gonna paint your car like however you want to paint it. Well, we were cruising, we're all parked hanging out, and like this BMW pulls up on us, and the window rolls down, and the dude's like saying something to me, and I was like, "What's up, bro?" And he was like, "Where you from?" And then I knew what he was doing, and I was like, "Oh no, bro, we ain't from nowhere, bro." And then he pointed at my cousin's car, who's a red car, and he points at it, and so I walked up and I go, "What's up, bro?" And I leaned in on his windowsill, like with my arms on the windowsill. And he goes, "What's up with that car?" I go, "What's up with it, bro? It's clean, right?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I seen like the dude in the back seat was like clutching something. And I'm like, "Hey, man," I'm like, "It's not worth it, bro." And they kind of all like perked up, like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I did all that, bro. I went through the ringer, bro. It ain't worth it, bro. I promise you, you're gonna regret it, bro." And then he was just like, "All right," and he's like, "All right, bro, later," and they just drove off.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't like get any deeper than that, but I was just like, "Bro, you're gonna regret this."
Yeah.
Because I knew that's what all they were probably doing was driving around looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Wow,
man, that's crazy. And I'm sure you've had tons of instances like that too, right? Where it's just like you're literally facing the danger or a danger and just looking at it. I mean, this because like for me, man, like like just hearing that story makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. So I couldn't imagine having a life where you're on both sides, right? Where you're on that side before and then now you're on the other side, but like having those instances where you're literally facing danger, right? You either see somebody holding something or you're the one holding something, and having to kind of process that. It's kind of like you say, that it's crazy how the human mind and body can adapt
Yeah.
to a lifestyle, really.
It's really strange for me now because of like I feel like how I was telling you, kind of like my nerves were like bulletproof. My nerves were never bothered me. But it's like if there's like ever like a something that slowly, if there's gonna maybe be a confrontation or a conflict, but it's slowly building up to that, my nerves will get me now.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. But if something just happens like quickly, spontaneously, like somebody just tries to attack or whatever, I'm fine. Like as long as I'm going off of like instinct,
Yeah.
But like there's no way that I can like do the things that I used to do, where like we would get in cars and like intentionally drive across town to go do something. There's no way my nerves wouldn't allow me. But yeah, bro, like looking the way I look, I mean, now I look more like a man, don't dress that way and stuff like that. But like people who can identify me by my tattoos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And usually I do not get bothered or do not, people are just like, oh, he's chilling. He's not whatever no more. But if there is ever someone that does confront me based off of something, usually they're probably about that action. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
and so, and I'm aware of that. So, I know what to how to play my cards. You know what I'm saying?
To avoid the issues.
Yeah,
for sure, man. Well, man, dude, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And I know that we could probably sit here all night.
Yeah.
And you'd have plenty to share.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to share, like just to the community, to maybe some other young people out there, or is there anybody that you just like have a message, a word for them that you just want to share at this moment?
Yeah. If there's any young people that are, struggling with where they belong, or, if they belong to a gang or whatnot, I would say that, there's so much more value in you than that. It took me so long to realize the value that I had in myself, that I had to give. The pride that I have in being a good son to my mom, or being a good father to my children, or being a faithful husband to my wife, or a provider, just being a pillar in my family or in the community. The pride that I have today in being that, being a source of strength instead of being a source of hurt and pain, to any victims that I might have had, or just to my loved ones, because ultimately we're only hurting ourselves and the people that love us when we live that way. And I would say that, you have so much more to give this world and to receive, don't do that to yourself.
Wow. Mico, you're a real one, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Right on,
you guys, thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, peace out.